In favor? You want to start over?
No, you're okay.
I'm kidding. First of all, before we get started on this, I would like the members of the DEC, people sitting around the table, to introduce themselves and who they're affiliated with. And we'll start with Jeff.
Thank you, Carl. I'm Jeff Grant. I'm representing the town of Fort Collins. Matt Roth, appointed by the delegation, the state delegation, also Mayor Frank Farrell.
Tony Sprinkle, Executive Director of the DEC.
Steve Bussard, Nick Note, consultant to the board, owner of Sacred Collective. Colleague of Dr. Rudolph, 21 years ago, the Davis First State of North Vernacular.
Great Vision Young, AAG, and Council to Bainbridge.
Chick Allen with PNC Bank, a home commercial business in some of the.
Thank you very much. The purpose of the meeting, we have two public sessions a year, meetings a year. The purpose is to bring the public up to date. We are available via Zoom, so I'm sure that the people who are tapping listening to us. I need a motion. So moved. Second?
Second.
Yeah, motion and second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Few announcements to make. First of all, I want to recognize and thank Dan Sneckenberger. Director of Administration. Dan, you've always supported us from being a commissioner, resident in Florida, or as the Director of Administration, and we appreciate that support of us over the years. Thank you. Steve Overbay is the former Director of Economic Development of Cecil County, who is now serving as interim Director of Administration for Cecil County Government. And I called Steve and I asked him, because we had an historic event next week, and I asked Steve if he would just take a couple of minutes to report to us about the National 5-star event occurred. Steve?
Thank you, Carl. Yeah, and so Fair Hill International, many of you are very familiar with that, but we were incredibly pleased to have our first year of the Maryland 5-star. The Maryland 5-star, for those of you that do not know, is held at Fair Hill. It is essentially a triathlon, so to speak, for the equestrian industry. So you're talking about dressage, cross country, and show jumping. We welcome guests from literally around the globe. So we have royalty here in Cecil County, we have Olympic champions, and just a whole host of world-class athletes. The first year, I will tell you that we are very pleased to announce that the attendance figures exceeded our expectations. So that is a great sign for things to come. We do have a 5-year commitment for the Maryland 5-star. This was year 1. Lots to happen between now and year 5. We would love to build to the point where this becomes an annual event, and it's here in Cecil County for a long, long time. So that said, lots has happened already. Broadband internet services, those types of things needed to get to that facility in order to be able to create a world-class venue. For those of you that were able to join and or possibly see on local television via MPT and or the internet, Fair Hill showed very, very nicely. So first-class facility, world-class competitors equaling a really amazing opportunity to showcase this county, our equestrian roots, and everything else that we have to offer. So, good news aside of the story, if you tried to reserve a hotel room 5 months ago, you were out of luck. We do anticipate that we're going to continue to grow as the popularity of this event continues to grow. Many of you may have heard about Great Wolf Lodge, which is coming in, and they are engaged in conversations now to become the flagship hotel of the Maryland 5-star. So that will be 700 additional suites in which we could capture the economic impact of said event in future years and really just continue to grow the great infrastructure that we have. So with that, Tony was very kind to come out and represent the BDC on 2 different occasions with different groups that we as the county were able to host. Our goal was to expose as many individuals to this event as we possibly could, Carl, and I would say by all accounts that was a success, and the BDC was well represented this year, and I'm sure will be next year.
Thank you, Steve. This is just an outstanding recognition of Cecil County. I know there are all kinds of people who need to be thanked for pulling this off. I'm correct in saying the owner of the site in the United States is in Mexico.
That's correct. There are 7 of these around the globe. With this one included, there are only 2 in the United States, less than Kentucky Sports Park being the other. And I will tell you the feedback from the riders, vendors, the owners was that this site has everything needed to be a very, very special place, a very challenging course for the riders and the horses, and one that they very much look forward to coming back. And you did highlight many people need to be thanked, some of which are in this room, but I would tell you from our municipal partners to the volunteers that work incredibly hard over the course. Not only that week, but quite frankly, a year and a half leading into this, the team at the Maryland Five Star, the Fairhill International Board, so on and so forth. This was a lot of people lifting, a lot of people rowing in the right direction, but fruits of their labor were well.
Good, congratulations on that. Okay, the arbitration is important. Really manage to be
So I'll walk you through the consolidated financial report that we usually speak to, and please say our financial position. Last, include the audit.
This room is pretty large in the
We submitted the audit to the county and that will be included in their fund product. We have a balance sheet, we've got a free position just over $1.3 million. It's a little different from where we've been in the past 2 months. The very few of those dollars are actually public disclosure for which virtually no restriction more than $121. So it's really strong. Changes to our assets. We had a payable at the close of the month. Since taken care of payment. There are other ongoing liabilities are $91,000 state something. For the middle page, we look at the activities for September. Expenses for $37,000. We have any revenue, this is big revenue for the month of September. Expenses line by line. So various things. On the right side of the page, you've got our aggregate data for the first quarter. See column, actual results. Our total revenues for the fiscal year thus far $402,000. That's $77,000 expenses. So we're showing surplus of $6,000, which compares favorably to the budget we have. So $16,000 is really good in terms of plan. Spend some time Tony, so we're looking at rules, expenses, and just making sure we have saved for storage and rubber work that we fund. Most of the things that's actually not cash. So the relationship between the citizens and the state. I think we made in good shape.
The finance chair has submitted his treasurer's report as a motion. Do I have a second? Second. Now, any questions? Finance report? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposition? Thank you, Chip. Members of the board, we received a copy of the minutes from our June 2021 public meeting. Had a chance to review those. Have a motion to approve. Second. Second. Any questions, comments, corrections? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Thank you very much. 2 years ago, when I became chair, I wanted to create a structure where all the members of the board were involved in the ongoing work of the Favorite Development Corporation, PDC. And with that, we created 3 committees. We created the Toadstool Committee, the Communications Committee, and the Environmental Committee. And with that, and those folks worked very hard. I'm very pleased to see the involvement of board members to keep them in tune with what's going on from not a day-to-day, but from a weekly to monthly basis. We're going to hear 3 of those reports now. The first is from Chair of the Township Committee, Joe Wright.
Thank you, Paul. And I guess maybe it's a brief summary. The purpose of the Town School Committee is to explore options to develop, preserve, protect, and develop Town School property within the historical trust. So we recognize that a valuable asset to this project, to the entire project. With that, sort of more detailed summary from you. One of the goals has been to explore whether the view shed from the school could be to the river, could be restored at that. So Tony and Carl and I think Steve met with Maryland Department of Environment, Department of Natural Resources and Commerce to walk the site to discuss the potential. So that's one of our goals that we're exploring. In addition to that, we are awaiting an interim draft report on the assessment of what the development potential would be for that site from Duncan Associates. And when we get that point, give us the direction the directions we can consider. On a more practical level, we have a graffiti problem on the headmaster's house, and we also want to stabilize the roof, and that requires the permission and approval of the Maryland Historical Trust, and that process has started, and we're awaiting their answer, which we hope will get within 30 days. And in addition, on the bookkeeping side, Tony has summarized all the costs we've spent to date to stabilize the entire property, which will be submitted or have been submitted to the Department of General Services. Hopefully, it will be treated as an matching grant so that we can partake of funds that were approved by the General Assembly. That's my report. Are there any questions?
Thank you, Joe. Communications Committee is in the state of the transition. It's formally chaired by Matt Roth. And we worked on acknowledging the types of communication and who the intended audiences were for the communication. In the last year, the need for communication has increased so much because of all the action going on with state agencies, developers, and so forth. The need for ongoing meetings. So the Communications Committee has been absorbed in the Executive Committee, and now the 5-member group discusses and works with Tony regarding the The third committee is the Environmental Committee, is chaired by Mary Jane.
So, quick, basically the environmental committee does. A couple things we got going on. We have a lot of that. They'll only have one of this. Permitting issues for the next few years. Hopefully.
Thank you very much. Okay. Now, the new business, Tony.
within our bylaws and our statute, our officers serve on a yearly basis. So I have put forth a slate of officers with the nominating committee, which is Tom, the director of Medco, and the following slate of officers are nominated to serve for the BEC for the period of November 1st, 2021 through October 31st of 2022. All of our officers have accepted their nomination. For chairman, we have Dr. Carl Roberts, vice chairman Jim Reynolds, and treasurer Pam. If I can have a motion to accept the slate of officers.
So moved.
Open for discussion, if anyone has any discussion on it. All in favor?
You're making me nervous, Ted. Thank you, well, I appreciate the confidence, a lot's happening, and again, the goals, as I say every year to every public individual I talk to, the goal of the DEC is to have business. And I can't wait for the day when that happens, it's not gonna happen next month, it's gonna be a while, yeah. So I appreciate the trust of the, board. And I thank Jim Reynolds. We're now going to go quickly through the BBC year in review, and several people are going to participate in that. And we'll start with Tim.
This is what everyone's homeschoolers here, what's been going on up here for the past 12 months. At our last meeting in 2020, we had reported that the phase 1 ESCA had been executed. ESCA stands for an Environmental Services Cooperative Agreement that is executed between the BEC and the Department of the Navy, which in essence hires us, the BEC, as the Navy's contractor to handle any potential residual material of concern on the site. The main concern was residual asbestos containing materials, transite building materials that could have been left behind from demolition. At our last meeting, last year at this time, crews were beginning to mobilize to fully start that site work. Since then, this couldn't be, thanks to our lovely development partners at FRP. This is the boundary of the phase 1 property. So the initial activity was a surface scan for any part of the acreage in phase 1 that's outside of the limits of the service. In essence, what's not going to be a building footprint or a parking lot. So all of the green space that you see, all of that green space will remain. And that was scanned. We actually have Jay Matwani from Weston, who's our environmental consultant. Weston actually handled the implementation from an environmental standpoint for the ESCA work. So Weston was out in the field with crews that hand scanned all of that green space because it's not going to be utilized in development. It's not going to be mass graded. So that's a way of ensuring that there's no residual asbestos on the surface. The very first activity was preliminary clearing and grubbing to remove all of the vegetation. Then the installation of some temporary sediment and erosion control measures, which you'll see examples of here. It basically just ensures that you don't have any stormwater management concerns or runoff concerns while we're in this temporary state of addressing environmental concerns before we get to final pad development. Once those various spaces were installed, we moved on to our environmental investigation activity, and crews tilled the top 12 to 18 inches of soil and had asbestos crews on site to monitor all of the soil and identify if there was any material that was found while they were doing that operation. If anything was found, it was excavated, relocated over into a prepared disposal area, and then that area ultimately is capped, covered, and there's conditions placed on it so that way you know that this was a disposal area. The amount of asbestos that was found in this phase 1 activity was minimal. So we were ahead of schedule and under budget, which is always fantastic when we're utilizing public funds. And while it does not fall within the fiscal year 21 timeframe, it's extremely important to report that on September 2nd of 2021, BDC received the interim regulatory approval from the Department of the Environment, and I will pull that language up because this is a celebratory matter in itself. And we'll give Mark a chance to speak if you would like. So this is just a small excerpt of the letter. But MDE, in cooperation with the United States Navy, NAVAC Washington, accepts, approves, and affirms the due diligence provided by the Bainbridge Development Corporation regarding the described remedial activity of asbestos containing material across parcels A, B, C, and D, which is our phase 1 property. The MDE therefore assigns an interim no further action required status to this property. The interim NFAR will allow BDC in coordination with developers to initiate grading and site preparation activities for future development.
Mark. Mark, thank you, sir, from MDE. Mark, we appreciate your support and support of the department. Do you have any comments you'd like to make?
I'll say a couple quick things, it's probably before to say my big bosses can play that. So however long I have worked, many of these people on this board, including some of those over there, have been on this board a very long time. And the goal has always been to get it developed. You are now at that stage. There's been a lot of bumps, a lot of pushing, shoving, and getting it done. I want to acknowledge my deputy secretary, Horacio Tablada, who was integral, assisting me for many years, as well as the development team, everybody at Medco, and especially the community. The property is ready to go. I will tell you, in any development, I can say, here you go. You still have all these other little things, permits for this, utilities, all those things. So I can't answer all the questions. I'll get you that far. I can help you push a little bit more if necessary. And you know what? I want to see if you only show the before and after picture, even the grade, okay? Because it doesn't do anybody any service. If you look at that picture, you're like, all right, well, I see a big open area. If you walk that property over the course of the last 30 years, you say, hey, wait, I know Mr. Jimmy knows this, a lot of these, people involved in government knows it's been a lot of work. So when we see steel on that property and building rooftops, it'll be that next step. And I say, we're not there completely. Let's get the other parcels done, same with the phone school. You got a recipe, follow that recipe. We know the Navy's number, and let's get the rest of it done.
Thank you, Mark. I want to recognize Ken Michael from MPPS, who's our partner. Ken funded this work. We appreciate that. And you have been a tremendous partner from day one. We're not eager to that. Yes, sir.
It's dangerous.
We know that.
Right here. What he's done is picked up by this law, HT. And this, you've been on this thing so long, yet, like here, but. And these two right here. They need to be thanked. I mean, I remember that, but there's a lot of new faces here. A lot of old, and Wayne. I think everyone.
Thank you very much.
And we're almost there. Turn it over to-
One other comment regarding ESCO, and then we'll turn it over to Reed from MRP for our developer update. But at last year, we were also under contract with the Navy for the second phase memorandum of agreement, which would then, the next step was our activity-based sampling. A lot of folks refer to it as mock construction activities. They'll do some various trenching, excavating, clearing, mowing. They have personnel monitoring, air monitoring, and then it determines if there's any issues environmentally to workers. My understanding is the preliminary data looks perfectly fine as it was in phase 1, which is what we expect, but ultimately we'll need to have those reports finalized, which we expect by probably early of 2022. And then we'll duplicate the same process. We'll come up with a conceptual plan. We will modify our ESCA to include phase 2, and then we will duplicate the same process. So I personally, I came to the BBC in 2014 when it was a very dismal time, and I was spending all of my time doing legal research and litigation discussions and settlement discussions. And it is amazing to see where we are now. We absolutely would not be here if it weren't for all of our partners, our private partners, NDE, Commerce, the governor's office, our congressional folks, our delegation, our board members for sticking around when times got really difficult. I'm excited, and I'm just very thankful to be a part of the project.
Hey, Carl, if I might, on page 2, we've just finished the pre-presentation study, and wetland study, and we'll be back again. And Tony, believe me, what you've done on this is unbelievable. I mean, just unbelievable.
Thank
What we're saying is they can clean up and spending their money.
Yes, Reed, I can pull up your.
Ms. Reed Townsend, who is phase 1 developer.
So at first, I'm gonna respectfully disagree with something you said. You said everybody's here to figure out what has happened in the last year. I think you're here to figure out what's next.
That's very true. All right, I'll agree with you with that one.
So yeah, no disagree at all, but I think to me, the exciting part is what's getting right. And I think I probably stand in front of you tonight with high confidence. It's the last time we'll be on the board of a former naval training center. You're gonna be on the board of a world-class logistics center the next time you do.
Super.
Woo-hoo.
Very excited. It's a unique, we have 1,000 acres located in the middle of the northeast population directly off. It's a jewel of a property for what we do as MRP Industrials. I think there's been a lot of visions for it, and then the time is just rough, and I think people are all experiencing the demographics and supply chain changes. That's a buzzword, positive and negative across the industry right now. But really, what we're going to bring to Bainbridge and how it's going to service everybody locally, regionally, and nationally as a logistics center. I think there's probably some new faces here. Some like Mark have been dealing with this every day for a couple of years, and then some probably just looking kind of a quarterly update. So just to give an overview of what we have planned for phase 1, which is 440 of the approximately 1,000 acres. About 250 acres of it will be disturbed area, and it's largely the area that you see in the area, and the limits of disturbance in areas that we cleared. Others we're preserving for forestation and green space. We're going to have well over 100 acres of green space, and the majority of that is forest conservation. So it's just shy of 100 acres of forest con through here, and really create a park setting more than just logistics. Park and the truck works and concrete silt panels that you're we are working through, like you said, kind of the fine details, Mark, but there are a lot of fine details. So we are working through now, responding to all the comments of the different jurisdictions that have authority over this. That's at the state level, at the county level. Again, appreciate the county's been extremely responsive at every turn on this, and we're very close to getting all of our comments addressed across all the different departments, and we have high confidence we are going to close on phase 1 later this year. What we see out there once we close on phase 1. We'll have an infrastructure project that will include the creation of 2 roads servicing the park, both phase 1 and access to phase 2. We reviewed historical maps of Bainbridge. The main road servicing that is in the area of the road that was called Howard Road at the time. So we're going to the main spine road servicing Bainbridge, Howard Road. Then the road that will service phase 2 is really the boulevard that everyone sees, that's known as Bainbridge Boulevard. We live in a world of GPS, and there's also Bainbridge Road. And so we're very sensitive that the drivers that are going to be coming here may accidentally press the wrong button as they scroll through GPS. So to honor Bainbridge, they acknowledge that we don't want to have two roads largely the same name and have trucks end up in Port Deposit. The other road servicing the park will be called Commodore Boulevard. So we will be commencing construction of those two roads and mass grading all 4 sites for the project starting immediately upon closing. We anticipate that work will be largely completed by spring of next year. We're focusing on 2 of the 4 sites, and we're preparing to start speculative development of what we call Building B and Building C in March and April, respectively, of next year. And that will deliver by the end of the year of 2022. We have 1 million square foot building for Building B and 600,000 square foot building for Building C. And we will have pad sites available for a building of approximately 400,000 square feet on Jacobstown Highway. And then is really the jewel of this project is a unique opportunity to deliver a tenant building as large as 1.8 million square feet located directly off I-95. And the balance of that, whether it's 1.4 million with higher auto parking and trailer parking, that's why we don't develop that on a speculative basis, because in our experience around the region, that can take many shapes or forms. And so we work with the town and kind of modify and massage that plan as tenants. So that, yeah,
So that,
kind of, well, whether it's some of us in the engineering world work at the plan of the 2D and others just like the rendering to say, hey, what's it really going to look like? So these are really just the same plan, but some are kind of isometric or used, and others are just the site plans that we're using for our marketing. So building B would be the one that runs north-south along Commodore Drive. And building C is will be down located off of the Spine Road. And the other 2 will be brought to pad ready. And in the pad ready condition, we can typically deliver buildings in 10 to 12 months from a pad ready condition. Used to be shorter, but I've already got steel for the other 10 months in advance. So the steel is coming. So that is our vision and our schedule. Very confident that the next time that I stand in front of you, steel in the air, and it will be a logistics center with visions of now and space.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We have a little bit left in schedule for updates. I can't say the exact time, but about 2 years ago, 3 years ago, the thing that changed the Bainbridge was every entity that was working associated with anything in Bainbridge all started working together. And that's what changed. All of a sudden, be it state agency, town of Port Deposit, or developing respective part of phase 1, the governor's office, the legislature, so forth. Everybody started working together. A lot of people deserve a lot of credit for what happened, and some people I don't know put a lot of effort in to make sure that the ducks fell in the road. Okay, this came to be. It's an exciting time. The more tired we hear, the substance of the discussion of our meetings is so much more pleasurable now than they were 6 or 7 years ago. I would say we are excited about that. And I'm going to talk more about those people who join hands to help us in a few minutes. Infrastructure company?
in our last annual report, really over the past, I would probably say past 5 years, since we really uncovered what the conditions are of the soil, infrastructure has been our largest issue. Mainly the cost of infrastructure has been our issue. Over the past 12 to 18 months, we've had an incredible amount of support from both our public and our private partners. the BDC was awarded a $2 million grant from the state of Maryland for public infrastructure. We were awarded an additional $1.5 million from the state for public infrastructure, and the county they committed to match the $2 million that was originally received from the state. So it's $5.5 million in public funding for infrastructure to ensure that Bainbridge can come online and service the tenant. All of that money will be matched and exceeded by our private developer. So enabling us to have a successful project, it just wouldn't have happened without that, the input and the contributions from our public stakeholders. So I can't stress that enough. I know Ken put a lot of work in down in Annapolis to get funding for the project, and the support that we've had has just been incredible. We have our agreements in place. We have a memorandum of understanding with the county, because ultimately DPW, it will be a public sewer line extension. You better have that there. I'm trying to upset. So I'll just.
They have a slide.
There you go. So we've got, I'm sure it's probably this. So here will be the sewer extension. You see it? So we've got our sewer line. So the green will be the extension of the sewer line. It will hook into the new treatment plant that's being constructed down in Port Deposit. The blue line along 276 will be the extension that will be ultimately owned by Artesian. And as Reed mentioned, the public road work that is being done, we've actually reallocated the sources of funding, and we decided, and with perfect support from the state, that all of the state funding will actually go towards the public road system. Port Deposit will ultimately end up owning those road systems, and then the private developer will be the full match to the sewer contribution from the county, and the private developer will fund the water extension line from Artesian. We are in the process of working on the wastewater agreement with the county, and we have the memorandum of understanding executed with Artesian Water, and are in the process of ultimately working on that water service agreement. These projects will be breaking ground probably the same time as we're working on the building pad, so we will finally have infrastructure on the site.
Another key component, Tony mentioned it, but Chief County put in wastewater treatment plant, significant piece of the puzzle, solve infrastructure, wastewater infrastructure. Want to acknowledge something changed in the last year. We had an ongoing relationship with Cecil College, the truck driving training school. And with the development phase one, represented by Dr. Mary Holt, president of Cecil College, thank you for coming, Dr. Holt. They made a decision that they were going to move their truck driving training school back to the what I call Bayview campus. And with that, and we're very generous in discussion to allow us to purchase 3 relocated buildings on site. One of them was one office, and 2 of them were associated with the truck driving training program. Now one of those offices is the BBC office. One has been renovated as a marketing center for MRT. With that, and then one is a building used by as a construction office for those who are constructing. We've already talked about constructing buildings on the site. We appreciate I cannot say enough about the relationship that those involved with the truck driving training school had with Don, the preceding Tony, and EEC, because they were up there with their students driving trucks around, and they were our security at that time. They also were ready at the hand if anything come up with Don and Tony assistance. So I knew the purpose before Dr. Holt, I can't say much about how genuinely collaborative those men and women are associated with CT First of all, we have Senator Jason Galvin, District 35. And Senator Galvin, Tony talked about and mentioned the funding associated with capital funding associated with planning bridge. Senator Galvin is deeply involved in that, so we appreciate your efforts on that line. Also have Councilmember Jackie Gregory. Councilperson Gregory has been a long time interested. She went on our MRT, starts the site tour of our county. Councilman Gregory was on that. We appreciate your support. Thank you for doing it. One other person I need to recognize is Chief of Emergency Services, Mr. Gann. But more importantly to us, the former mayor of Fort Deposit and a longtime ex officio member of the BDC. Mr. Tony, thank you. Say what?
Obviously, another very important aspect of the BDC's mission and operations is the ultimate redevelopment of the Tome School. As Joe had mentioned, unfortunately, we suffered 2 fires last year. It really invigorated the board and all of our stakeholders to realize that now that we've got our overall development much more in focus, it really, because BDC doesn't have a lot of resources. Right now, you're looking at her. So it's been difficult to give Tome School the focus that we would ultimately want to when we have so many unanswered questions and dealing with the overall development. Having such wonderful partners, it's allowed the BDC, our board, myself, Steve, Carl, to really focus on Tome School. We fully engaged with Fred Ward and Associates to have an updated conditions assessment of the buildings. They hadn't been assessed in quite a few years, and we wanted an expert opinion to determine from an engineering and structural standpoint, what are the conditions of these buildings and what do you ultimately think that feasibly could happen with them. In addition to that, we engaged with a real estate associate to have the campus looked at as a whole, both individually, the buildings individually, but overall as an entire resource and an entire project. We're currently engaged with them on that. We hope to have some sort of findings and recommendations within the next 30 or so days. And these are 2 extremely important components in ultimately updating the strategic plan that Weston Solutions created for us back in 2016. It's at that time we had no agreement with the Navy. The development was dismal. The easement restrictions were very defined, and we've had so much progress since then that we've been extremely engaged with MHT and the Department of Planning, because ultimately what happens at the Tome School will not unilaterally be decided by the BDC. There's many stakeholders. The town will have an involvement, various Lower Susquehanna Heritage Greenway will have an involvement. But these, this due diligence work will enable us all to sit down and make an educated determination on what we could realistically do with the campus. So that's my personal goal for the next year, that we have a strategic plan. We've fleshed it out with MHT. We've had our community stakeholder involvement, and we're ready to implement that, whether it's applying for grant funding or if it's engaging with a development partner. It's an exciting time for Tome School. Maybe it's a partnership with MRP.
We're about ready to wrap up. I want to read a list of entities that we've have been engaged in the last year in communications and collaborative efforts to solve problems. And this is outside of NGP and NRP. There are these are the other entities. Port Deposit Council, Port Deposit County Planning Commission, Cecil County Economic Development Commission, MEDCO, Cecil County Administration, Cecil County Planning, Land Use and Planning Department, Department of Public Works, the Susquehanna Workforce Network, the Maryland Star Commission, Department of Commerce, Maryland Department of Environment, Maryland Department of Planning, Maryland Historical Trust, Department of General Services, State Highway Administration, Maryland Transportation Authority, the Governor's Office, Lieutenant Governor's Office, the rest of the delegation, the delegation to Annapolis, represented by Senator Gavin Z. U.S. Navy, Delmarva, Artesia, and I probably left out a few. And that just reinforces the amount of effort that people know, the amount of time is right, developing great, and we're ready to cut the ribbon and forge ahead. This is the time of night where we ask for the public comments or questions. Hearing none. I think we still I have a couple of personal comments that I want to make, because in addition to the men and women who serve on the board, about 3 years ago, things happened that really solidified for us. First of all, Medco was kind enough to lend us Steve Cassar to work with the Maryland PDC. He served as the executive director. With that, I cannot say enough about his wealth of knowledge, his experience, the history that he has in working with departments. What's even more than that, he loves BDC, he loves Bainbridge, and he wants nothing more than that. So Steve, thank you very much. One of the things Steve worked on, why he was doing all this one for him, is he saw a bright star. And he worked on, he came to me about a year ago, and he said, she's ready to be executive director. With that, it was unbelievable in what she does, and her team talked about with it. She took over the reins July 1st as the executive director of Bainbridge, and she is showing every day how we made a smart decision to name her executive director. Tony, thank you for all. Thank you all for coming. Have a good night. We said
Here.
Yeah.